Last video we got started talking about game design and we mentioned a few influences. In this video we're going to take a closer look into one of them, Hollow Knight. Hey everybody, my name is Jason Boza and welcome to Make and Break Games. Hollow Knight is a 2D platformer that also falls into the metroidvania category. And it's definitely one of the more popular ones for good reason. Now there are three major components that we'd like to adapt from Hollow Knight and eventually incorporate into our game, if not improve upon it as well. The first one, which I mentioned before, is the controls. The controls are really intuitive and just feel really good in my hands. The second thing we'd like to adapt from Hollow Knight that we think makes it really great is the way it uses the generic metroidvania elements. What I mean by that is having this incredibly large world that you can freely explore up until the point where you can't. But instead have to go somewhere else to unlock something or get some type of item to then progress to that spot that you got stuck in the first place. The last thing would be the way the animations are presented. You'll see what I'm talking about when we get into it, but it feels like you're playing a cartoon for the most part. I want to get into more detail about each topic, but it'll be a lot easier to explain it and show you at the same time. So let's get right into it.
Alright, so the first thing we want to talk about is movement and how important it is in a game like this. Now, the first thing we want to look at is just moving left and right. The speed is the same in each direction. There's no real, you have like a tiny bit, and I think that's more of the animation, if anything, but there's not much acceleration time. You kind of get to your max speed almost instantly. If there's acceleration, it's very minimal, but you just don't feel it, and you definitely don't feel it when you do something like this. Just go left and right. And the other nice thing is the way the jump is set up. You can reach a max altitude pretty just by holding the button, but the thing I really like is that you can also shorten that altitude just by letting go quicker, and I really like that. It gives me just a lot more precision in what I want to do, and it's very intuitive. No issues on that. Then you have your dash, which is good. Oh, your wall jump. Wall jumping is really awesome in this game too. A lot of Metroidvanias would have something similar to this, and just the way everything kind of comes together is what brings a lot of joy when you're playing. Especially just the snappy movement, the ability to kind of do the input and then get what you're envisioning in your mind is just really important, I believe. So it's really when it comes together, when you can mix and match the different elements of your movement, where you can really experience a lot of that like parkour freestyling movement that you wouldn't otherwise get in some other type of games. And I think this is one of the reasons why I think Hollow Knight really excels is just the ability to move. Just feels good. It feels good to jump around off walls and dash and get to certain locations that you wouldn't otherwise be able to just by kind of mix and matching your movement abilities. And in the contrast to this, you would end up with frustration because especially when you have to like land on the platform, a small platform even, if you're not giving freedom to use the tools a little better, you'll end up getting into these weird situations where you're just kind of failing to get onto these platforms and just I'm not really sure how to explain it, but it's just a very frustrating feeling when you can't move your character the way you want to. But yeah, that's definitely something we're looking into adapting into our game. It's just the ability to move around and get to from point A to point B in any way you really want to, really. And that's the goal. Alright, so we want to talk about a couple scenarios that come to mind when we're talking about Metroidvania elements that Hollow Knight does very well. Um, Of course, if you played this game before, you're gonna know that I'm kind of making things up here, but I'm just kind of making up scenarios um, that is better than just kind of saying it. So here's the first one right here, where let's pretend all I had was jump. I didn't have my dash anymore. All I had was jump, and we know my max height, and we know how far we can go. So because of this, once I get to this part of the level, I can't make the jump anymore. And the thing that makes Metroidvania so kind of addictive in a way is that you come to a stopping point, you come to this insurmountable challenge, and you have to go somewhere else, take other paths, and eventually come to the point where you're strong enough or have the ability to surpass this one. So in this scenario, I go back to the through the level, and I do some stuff, um, probably fight a boss or something, and then come out with a dash. And now that did a couple things, but the first thing it did was it's like it got me thinking, okay, I got this spot that I can't make anymore, this jump, and but now I can with the use of my new ability. But that's not the only thing it did, because now it's just part of my regular gameplay. It's just a dash that I have now. Oops. Um, and the same thing with this wall jump. I don't know if you just caught that. Wall jump is something you start off with. When you get it, it just kind of changes the way you play. It just feels really smooth to use at all times. Here's another part right here. I can't make this jump without a dash. The ceiling's just too low for me. So yeah, now I got. So let's pretend I don't have my wall jump. My dash won't help me anymore because my highest jumping point is just not high enough. So the same thing would happen at this point, and I would go through the level again, looking for anything that I might have missed, and eventually finding a path that would eventually reward me with a double jump. And let me tell you, once I got double jump, it changed. Like dash was cool, and I was doing some cool things with it. But once I got double jump, that's when like not double jump. Once I got wall jump and like sliding, it just kind of changed the way I did everything. I basically started using the walls to do things I don't really need to do to get across. Like I can make this jump without doing anything, but you know it's just more fun than just jump. Oh god, jump off another wall to do it. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but um, using the new movement abilities that I got was just so rewarding. And not only did it help me like eventually pass this design made gate, you know, because at the end of the day, it's just a blocker made by design. That's all this really is. Um, but it didn't feel that way, right? It wasn't just like hey, just get this card, get a get like a key, and then it'll open. Like there's probably some of those stuff in this game, and there's gonna be a lot in different bunch of games, and eventually you're just gonna want to add those in there, just because it's something that people are used to, and people, they just kind of expect it at this point. But having it be uh, an ability that just also changes the way I play the game, I think is very important to have, like, because if I grab like the red key 20 times, it wasn't fun like after the first time, and then any other color key wouldn't really make a difference at that point. It would just be another key that I got. But now that I have a dash, um, it opened the pathway to explore the level more, but it also just let me play the game in a completely different way. So that's one of the aspects we're trying to take from Hollow Knight. I think they do it really well, at least from what I've seen. Obviously, I'm not that far in the game, still kind of exploring and figuring things out. But so far, the places that did get stuck on were places that I can breach using abilities, and I think that's very important to for it to be something that's gameplay driven and not so much just an arbitrary block to get the player to just move around, right? Move to a different area of the game. Things like this just feels way more rewarding as a player. So another thing I wanted to talk about was same spot here is the scenery, right? Like the theme of the game. I think they do this really really well. Um, it's just the way the level looks, the way the level feels. Um, Everything about it just it's just really themed to be one thing for this whole level, right? And you can kind of see what they're going with here. They this whole section, the green path, looks a lot like what you're seeing right here. It's very green. Um, it kind of looks, like there's some type of ancient civilization that probably got destroyed or just died off, and then this green shrubbery just took over, and like Mother Nature just took back its land, type of thing. Um, it just looks so much different than the first clip. The first clip was all blue. It kind of looked like it was in the beginning stages of a deserted city maybe or town. I'm not entirely sure, but the you can tell the difference. Like when you go into a zone, you know where you're at. You you immediately, and since there's a lot of backtracking, you're immediately gonna remember a lot of the things that you kind of went through just by entering the zone again. The other cool thing is that the levels are built almost like a maze. There's a lot of different ways in, and there's a few dead ends here and there, and it really kind of emphasizes that explorer type of a gamer, I guess. There's a lot of different ways to get to the same point, like this Lake of Un, or Un, or whatever it's called. um, you you have a bunch of different ways to get there. And realistically, when I first got here, there might have only been one way, depending on what type of abilities I had. But then I would go back and keep like exploring the other areas that I haven't gone through, and there's definitely a lot to still see and a lot to still gain out of that. The other thing I like is that when I first got to the green path, um, there wasn't any like fast travel. Like you have to unlock fast traveling. Um, Once you get to a zone, you can like pay for it with some currency, and then you'll get like a fast travel um, courier or something that lets you kind of move quickly between the zones, which is really nice because having to traverse this whole thing over and over would get really tiresome really quickly. But as I'm exploring, I definitely don't want to be teleporting around because I'm still exploring. I'm still looking at things, still trying to figure out where all the little nooks and crannies are at. So I really appreciate that. While I'm doing that, it also feels like the world is a much bigger place than initially was. So you start off here in King's Pass up there in the top, and you just travel through Dirtmouth, which is kind of like just a hub. And then once you get into the real game, kind of starts here, and then it's just Forgotten Crossroads, and in that area is like nice and blue. But then as I made my way around that area, I realized I couldn't get anywhere. There's some places that got blocked off, and I just ended up going left. And when I went left, it was a nice surprise that as I was reaching, I mean, there was going from Dirtmouth to the Crossroads. It was a little bit interruptive. There was like I guess there was a little loading screen or whatever, but it kind of felt natural because I was going through like the ground, I guess. But going from Ancestral Mound to Green Path felt really smooth, mostly because the path the entrances were kind of like morphing into the next zone. I can see like green on the entrance of this area, and it just felt really natural, really like a nice big world, and everything was interconnected, so I can just keep going from one place to another. And so if I wanted to, I could go all the way down here on foot, and I can make my way there. Of course, I'm not gonna do that because it'll probably take a long time, and I'll probably end up dying a bunch or something. Um, but you get my drift. Like just being able to explore is really nice, and that's something I think we want to adapt from this game for sure, and then make our levels thematic as well. So then it does two things. It kind of prepares the player for what's to come, but it also gives uniqueness to each zone of the game. And it's like having levels without actually having to split them up in a weird way. I don't know. And yeah, just the vastness of this world is another one we want to keep. And so when we're speaking about aesthetics as well, another one is going to be just the way um, this game kind of pops out. We definitely want to use the background the way these guys use it in Hollow Knight. It just kind of shows you way more of this world, right? Like just because it's 2D doesn't mean it can't be expansive. And in the back you can see a ton of things. And there's some areas in the game where you see like enemies kind of come out from the background, and I think that's like the coolest thing ever. I don't know why. I just think it's really pleasing to see. It's really cool. It's like, oh no, that thing from far away is coming closer. It's getting bigger. Um, Another thing would be the foreground. The foreground I wasn't too keen on until I kind of like came to these type of places when I saw these like little shadowy, uh, s- like blades of grass just swaying back and forth, and then I started realizing that like and then these shadows that are in front of your character, of like vines and twigs and stuff, it really kind of like just builds the world better, in general. And I think that's at first I wasn't really too keen on it, but then like look at these little vines move as I pass through them. Like that's just like little attention to detail things. Like it, I don't know. Like now that I have it, I think that if they were to take that away right now, I would miss it. I would definitely miss it. It's just part of what makes this game just a little bit of above the rest, in my opinion. Something we definitely want to play around with as well. We like the fact that this is it feels at least all hand drawn. I'm not entirely sure what goes behind the scenes of making a sprite like this, the animations and all that. That's something I need to talk to some friends about, and some of my artists, to see exactly how this would work. But it honestly feels like I'm playing like a cartoon. Like my character is a cartoon character, from like a Mickey Mouse character. Um, that's kind of what it feels like. And the animations just feel really smooth. Um, I don't know. It's something about it that I really like, and it's something we're probably gonna try to um, adapt as well, and see if we can make our own game look this good. Um, but yeah, I think that's basically all I have. Those are the main points that I wanted to go by. First was movement, being able to freely move your character and just freestyle your way to any point you want to get to. It's just a really good feeling, really kind of like that Spider-Man. Everybody likes the swinging in Spider-Man, and in Spider-Man 2 it was, but yeah, people love the swinging. And it's because it just gives you this freedom, this sense of freedom to get to the point you want to get to. And anyway, I mean that's why parkour was. It's like one of those everybody just wants to go hardcore parkour. The other one was just the map extensiveness, you know the ability to be stuck in a certain situation and then backtrack and go a different path and find something that would be game changing, not just open up the path, but actually change your gameplay, um, for the better, and just giving you more options to play around with. And then lastly would be the aesthetics, just kind of like the way they play with the background and the foreground, along with your main scene. It's just really well done, and I think that's another thing we would definitely look into, and as well as the looking into how we can also have hand drawn, at least hand drawn looking um, animations and effects, or not effects. Probably keep to like something more simple with effects, but uh, in terms of just the characters that are gonna be at play. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're looking forward to what we come up with. Next video, we're gonna probably talk about Darkest Dungeon, because there's a lot of like, we're speaking about aesthetics right here, but we're talking about more of like how we're gonna do it here. Not necessarily the type of aesthetic we're going for, because I think Darkest Dungeon is something that would give us more of that gritty vibe too, and would probably do our game a little um, more justice, I think, and just the tense feeling that it gives off. So, but we'll talk about that more later. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. And I guess we'll see you in the next one. Peace.